Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Basically, I made my mum roast dinner yesterday, but I ran out of veg. Like, last evening. I'm a bit of a mess. Look a bit brewery. That's a bit better. I think it's a bit better. If you ask me. And yeah, but I'm about to take a roast dinner to her, but I just need to cook a couple of fish, like carrots, because I ran out. I'm going to play my book. Okay, the first audiobook is on YouTube. Hey, Vince. But the thing is, I'm going to my emails now. I haven't uploaded the second edition one, which I need to do. Okay, let me find it. I don't want to be posting the wrong thing. Okay. This part, yeah, this one should be it. Maybe. Find out now. Alright. Hey Joey, good afternoon. I'm doing some cooking. I feel like it's a bit brewery. You just woke up. Okay, wait a minute. Just make sure. Okay. Is this the right one? It's so confusing. Yeah, I'll just double check. Just want to double check. There should be more pages in there. Okay, so what's this? The War with an S. War with an S. Chapter 1. Hang on. Let me find it. Okay, my nose is starting to run for some reason. I'll sort it out now. Hey, Fez. You're right. Us gamer. The war has started. You should have read my post. Oh, I haven't read no post. I'm not really good at that. What's going on there? Okay, I got some veg on for my mum. So I done the roasties and the chicken last night, didn't I, for her? So before I go there, and I'm gonna put some like chicken burgers or something on for the kids. But just need to get. Yeah, I think this is the right book. So I'm gonna do that, and you can read out loud thing. So I'm gonna do this.
Chapter 1. Whispers in the Fog.
Give me a second. Is it even gonna play?
The first thing Decima noticed was the silence.
This is the
not the peaceful
version.
kind that came after rain,
okay,
nor the hush of snow falling through trees. This silence was watchful, waited. The kind that settles before something breaks. She stood in the woods of Porthbury, boots pressed into mossy soil, fingers still cold from the breeze that clung to the morning. Everything here was green and shadow and damp earth, and yet it felt like more than just a forest. It had always felt like more. To anyone else, this narrow trail through the trees might seem like an overgrown shortcut, a path half swallowed by nature. But Decima had walked it since she was a child. She knew every twist, every rise, every route that might catch a careless boot. The path wasn't on any map. You had to know it to find it. Or perhaps it had to know you. Branches swayed above her, whispering in a language she'd long stopped trying to understand. The air smelled of pine, whetstone, and something softer, the kind of scent you noticed only when you stopped talking long enough to feel the world breathe. Decima let her shoulders rise and fall with a slow exhale. It was a habit now, returning here when the noise of the world got too much. This place had always been her quiet, her haven. The only space where she didn't feel like she had to explain herself or shrink herself down to something more manageable. She didn't have to smile here. She didn't have to make sense. She walked slowly, fingers brushing the ivy-covered trunks as she passed. A robin darted overhead. Somewhere deeper in the wood, a woodpecker knocked softly at the silence. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. It wasn't the kind of fear that made you run. It was the kind that made you stop. That made your heart beat louder than your thoughts. She paused mid-step, one foot hovering above a patch of ferns, breath caught in her throat. There, that feeling again. Like eyes. Like presence. like something or someone unseen was standing just behind the trees. She turned slowly, scanning the trees behind her. Nothing moved. No footsteps. No voices. Just the wind stirring the upper branches and the faint glimmer of early sun breaking through the canopy. But still, the sensation lingered. Thus she was being watched. Not with malice, but with purpose. Like something was waiting. She pressed on, walking deeper into the woods. Her pace remained calm, but her senses were tuned to every shift in sound and light. And soon, her thoughts, inevitably, always, drifted back to him. She didn't know his name yet, but something inside her whispered it was Daniel. And so, in her mind, that's what she called him. She hadn't meant to notice him at first. It started with glances, small, forgettable things. He passed her once on the narrow road that led up from the town center to the park. She remembered the shape of his shoulders before she remembered his face. He didn't look at her then. Neither of them did. But then it happened again. And again. The second time, he was leaving the shop at the top of the lane just as she was arriving. Their eyes brushed each other for a breath, both of them too polite or too unsure to do more than glance away. That one stuck with her. She told herself it didn't mean anything. Just a moment. Just someone she vaguely recognized from around town.
For sure.
But the third time was different.
Okay.
She'd been in her garden, crouched beside the tangled patch of herbs she'd always meant to tidy, but never had the heart to tame. The rosemary and lavender had spilled across the old stone path, climbing like wild things. She liked them that way. It was a warm afternoon. One of those spring days that tricked you into believing summer had already arrived. She was wearing her gym t-shirt and old black trousers, not expecting to see anyone, just pruning the ivy along the edge of the wall when she caught a flicker of movement through the bushes. Daniel, topless, walking back from the shop with a small white bag swinging at his side. His skin golden from the sun, muscles defined but not showy, just real, like someone who did things with his hands. His hair was messy, windblown. His expression unreadable. She had stared. There was no point denying it. Half hidden behind the tall hedgerow.
Last time we
still clutched around a pair of garden.
I want to go and start with. Because I think the first 2 chapters I didn't change. The rest of the day went blur. I might have changed this one. It's getting confusing. So I added.
Chapter 3, The Witch's Mark.
Yeah. Okay. That if it works. Oh my goodness.
The rest of the day passed in a blur. Decima moved through the house like a ghost in her own life, tidying things that didn't need tidying, folding laundry that could have waited, sweeping a floor she hadn't walked across. She told herself it was just to stay busy, but her mind never truly left the woods. The image of the archway stayed behind her eyes. The shimmer of it, the hum it left in her bones. The way the air had changed when she touched it, like stepping through an invisible veil. And Daniel. She couldn't stop thinking about him. Not just the dream, or the clearing, or the garden, but the sense that he was woven into whatever this was. The pull she felt toward the forest was the same pull she felt when she saw him. Like gravity bending around something unseen. That evening, she curled up on the window seat with a cappuccino, both hands wrapped around the warm mug. Outside, dusk blurred the edges of the world. The sky turned the color of ash and lilac. A single star flickered to life. Her thoughts were a spiral. Something had changed. She felt it in her skin now, like static in the blood. The woods were part of it. The magic she touched. The way her pendant had warmed.
Because I played some of this yesterday, so I just want to play from the first step. It was after 5 I changed. Okay, the silent bond. I want people to spread lies, just ignore it.
Chapter 7, Echoes in the Garden. The morning sun filtered weakly through the kitchen window, casting long shadows across the floor. Decima stood barefoot by...
I'm going to start from 15 because that's where we left off last night, yeah. Or the green flick. Okay. Was it 15 or 16 we were on? Okay, let me find it. The price of... Okay. Did I go from 15 to... Have I got even the right book? 15. Oops. Where's 16? This is the wrong one. 15 to 16. Don't tell me I messed up. I don't even know if this is the right one now. Shit. Oh, this is the old draft. I just haven't, yeah, it's not in order. Yeah. Okay, where's that from? This one.
Chapter 20, The Binding. Just before dawn, back above Porthcary's cliffs.
Hey 20, how are you? Hope all is well.
Chest. The warmth of the restaurant, the laughter on the cliffside, and the strange hum of the quarry, all of it seemed like a memory from another life, swallowed by the pull of the magic.
Got a
Now,
lot
as
to
the dawn
do
broke over
today.
Porthcary, the air felt heavier, almost the forest seemed quiet. Beneath her, faintly like a heartbeat beneath you. The bond was stirring again. The path ahead seemed more certain than ever. She felt the weight of the magic pulling at her since the moment she'd stepped through the door. But now, there was an undercurrent of something more, a sense of finality that hadn't been there before. As if the magic had chosen them, not just for the journey, but for the burden that came with it.
Yeah. Coffee
She
time.
stood on the edge of a cliff, staring out over the vast landscape below. The winds howled, tugging at her hair, sending the scent of earth and rain swirling in the air. The world around them was wild, untamed. There were no paths here, no markers, no signposts, only the wilderness, stretching on for miles, as if it were waiting for them to make the first move. Steady and unyielding.
How is everybody?
Where do we go from here? She asked, though part of her already knew the answer. They had been walking this road for so long now, ever since the moment they'd crossed into the magic. There was no turning back. They had to go forward, no matter the cost. Daniel exhaled slowly, his breath visible in the cold air. We go to where it all began, he said, his voice low. The place where the spell was first cast. It's the only way we'll be able to break the bond. Decima turned to him, her brow furrowing. What do you mean? The bond? I thought the curse was the problem, not a bond. It's the same thing, Daniel replied, his voice tight. The magic that's tied to us, it's part of the curse, but it's also part of something more. Something older. The bond is what ties us together. It's what gives us strength. But it's also what keeps us locked in this cycle. If we want to free ourselves, we have to break it. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and foreboding. Breaking the bond. It sounded simple, but Decima knew nothing about magic was ever that easy. And what if breaking it meant something worse? What if it meant losing everything they had? You really think we can do it? She asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. Daniel met her gaze, his eyes dark but resolute. I have to believe we can. There's no other choice. Decima didn't answer. She couldn't. She wasn't sure what to believe anymore. The magic had already taken so much from her, her sense of self, her freedom. Now it was offering a chance at something more. But at what cost? She had no answers, only questions. And the answers she sought were as elusive as the wind that whipped through the trees, rustling the leaves in a constant, restless motion. Let's keep moving, she said finally, taking a step forward. She wasn't ready to make any decisions about breaking the bond or the curse. She couldn't afford to think too far ahead. For now, all she could do was follow the path, one step at a time. Daniel nodded, falling into step beside her. They walked in silence, the weight of their unspoken thoughts hanging in the air. Every now and then, Decima would glance at him, her mind racing with questions she was too afraid to ask. As they made their way deeper into the wilderness, the magic began to pulse around them again, just as it had before, subtle, but there. The sense of something ancient, something powerful, lingered in the air, brushing against her skin like a whisper, like a promise. The further they went, the more the world around them seemed to change. The trees grew taller, their trunks gnarled and twisted, their branches heavy with strange fruit that gleamed in the dim light. The sky above them was darkening, as if the sun itself had begun to set, even though it had never fully risen. "This is it," Daniel said quietly, breaking the silence. He stopped and turned to face her. "We're close now." Decima's heart began to race. She could feel the weight of the magic building again, stronger than before. The air was thick with it, and she could almost taste it on her tongue, a tang of something ancient and powerful, both inviting and dangerous. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her breath. "What is it we're looking for?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped forward, his eyes fixed on something in the distance. Decima followed his gaze and saw a flicker of light, a shimmer that didn't belong in the world they were walking through. "Over there," Daniel said, nodding toward the light. "That's where it is. The place where it all started." Without another word, they made their way toward the light. The closer they got, the stronger the magic seemed to become, until it was almost overwhelming. The air itself hummed with power, vibrating beneath their feet. And then, as they stepped through a dense cluster of trees, they found it. A stone altar, ancient and covered in moss, stood before them, bathed in the light of the shimmering magic. The symbols etched into the stone glowed faintly, pulsing with energy, as if alive. "This is it," Daniel said again, his voice barely more than a breath. "The place where the spell was cast. This is where we can break the bond." Decima stared at the altar, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the magic now, swirling around her, caressing her skin like a lover's touch. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. But she wasn't sure if she was ready. Was breaking the bond the right choice? Could she truly walk away from the magic that had become a part of her? The bond that connected her to Daniel? "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice tight with uncertainty. Daniel's eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, the world around them seemed to still. "We have no choice," he said, his voice steady, his expression resolute. "This is the only way." And with that, Decima stepped forward, knowing that once she crossed that threshold, there would be no going back. Chapter 21. The Heart of the Magic. The air in the clearing had shifted by the time Decima and Daniel returned. It hummed with anticipation, the quiet rustling of the leaves now strangely amplified, as if the very world around them was holding its breath.
"Hey Susan, how are you?"
They were back in Porthcary,
Hope
but
all
it
is
didn't feel
well.
the same. The trees seemed taller, the sky darker, and the earth itself buzzed beneath their feet, not just a place, but a presence. Decima stood before the stone altar, her pulse quickening with every passing second. The magic that surrounded them was thick, almost tangible, vibrating in the air like the strings of an instrument tuned to its breaking point. Her breath caught, chest tight. This was the moment. Daniel stood at her side, his gaze never leaving the altar. His hand had found hers again, his grip firm but gentle, as though grounding them both in the present moment. For all the uncertainty that lingered between them, there was an undeniable pull in the air, a sense that this was what they had been building toward for so long. Decima took a slow, steadying breath. She could feel the pulse of magic in the air, the same magic that had connected her to Daniel from the beginning. It was inside her now, as much a part of her as her heartbeat, but the question that had been nagging at her since the beginning lingered. Was it worth it? Was breaking the bond the right choice? There's no turning back now, Daniel said, his voice low, yet carrying across the stillness. His eyes met hers, dark with emotion. Whatever happens, we have to trust in what we've learned. Trust in each other. Decima nodded, though the uncertainty in her chest didn't quite ease. She didn't know what was waiting for them on the other side of this moment. But she did know one thing. This bond, this connection to the magic, had become a part of her. To sever it was to change everything, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to lose what had become such an integral part of her life. Yet, at the same time, she could feel the weight of it, the burden of the curse that had shaped her existence for so long. There was a price to the power she carried. and if there was any chance to break free from its hold, she had to take it. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, placing her hand on the stone altar. The moment her fingers touched the cool surface, the magic flared to life around them. The symbols on the altar glowed brighter, their ancient markings pulsating with energy. The air grew thick, and a low hum vibrated through her bones. She pulled her hand back quickly, as if the stone had burned her. But the energy was already coursing through her veins, a new rush of power flooding her senses. Decima, Daniel said, his voice urgent, but there was a note of awe in it as well. This is it. This is the heart of the magic. She turned to him, her heart racing. What do we do now? Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped forward, his hand moving toward the altar as well. We have to complete the ritual. The binding was created by the blood of our ancestors, but it can be undone through the same power. Our blood, Decima. It's the key. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small, intricate knife, its blade gleaming with an unnatural sheen. The handle was carved with the same symbols that adorned the altar, and Decima realized with a start that it was not just a knife, but a ceremonial tool meant for this very purpose. Are you ready? Daniel asked, his voice steady, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Decima nodded, her breath coming faster now. She could feel the magic in the air, pressing in on her, urging her to act. There was no turning back. Whatever happened next would change everything. Daniel stepped closer, holding the knife out to her. She took it in her hand, the weight of it feeling surprisingly familiar, as though it had always been meant for her.
3 more minutes and I'll put these
For a moment, they stood together, the weight of the moment pressing down on them both. On my mark, Daniel said softly. We do this together. Decima's heart pounded as they positioned their hands over the altar, the knife hovering between them. She could feel the pull of the magic, the connection between them growing stronger. Her veins thrummed with power, her skin tingling as if the energy in the air was responding to their intent. Now, Daniel said, his voice calm but determined. Together, they pressed the knife into their palms. A sharp sting cut through Decima's hand, and she winced as blood spilled onto the altar, dark and thick against the stone. The moment their blood touched the surface, the magic surged forward, surrounding them in a blinding light. The air hummed with energy, and Decima could hear the faintest whisper, a voice in the distance, calling to her. It was both familiar and foreign, echoing through her mind like a forgotten memory. As the light intensified, she squeezed her eyes shut, focusing on the ritual, on the bond that had tied her to Daniel and the magic for so long. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded, leaving them standing in the clearing, breathless and silent. For a moment, Decima didn't know if they had succeeded or if the bond had been severed. The air felt different, lighter, yet still charged with the remnants of the magic. She glanced at Daniel, his expression unreadable, as if he, too, was waiting for the magic to speak, to show them what had changed. But nothing happened. There was only silence. We did it, Daniel said quietly, his voice almost a whisper, as though afraid to speak too loudly and break the fragile stillness. Decima didn't know what to feel. A part of her wanted to believe that the ritual had worked, that they had broken the curse and freed themselves from the bond. But there was a part of her that feared they had only set something else into motion, something far darker than they could comprehend. And then, in the silence, the ground beneath them trembled. The magic was not done with them yet. As the tremor passed beneath their feet, a low rumble echoed deep within the forest, not thunder, but something older. The ground seemed to breathe. Something was waking. A gust of wind swept through the clearing, circling the altar like a silent watcher. From the shadows between trees, faint whispers rose, not in English, not even in Welsh, but in a language Decima felt in her bones. The language of flame and wing.
Clyw uwch y rhwym. Deffro'r un ag ysgai. Hear the bond. Awa ken the one who slept.
Decima gasped softly. That's dragon tongue, she whispered to Daniel. I've heard it in my dreams. Daniel's expression tightened. It's not just the bond we stirred. It's what the bond was guarding. Above them, the clouds darkened, swirling slowly. A shaft of golden light broke through, not sunlight, but magic, shining down on the altar like judgment. The glowing crack in the earth pulsed once more, and a distant, guttural cry rose from beneath the soil, a roar smothered by centuries. Decima dropped to one knee, pressing her palm against the stone. Whoever's listening, whatever you are, I'm not here to steal. I'm here to set it right. The symbols on the altar glowed brighter, then flared, and from the crack, a sliver of flame burst upward, then vanished. Daniel knelt beside her, hand on her back. We didn't just break a bond. We opened a gate. The clearing was silent again, but it was no longer peaceful. It was watchful. And in the trees, something stirred, something with eyes that glowed faintly gold, watching from the veil between worlds.
The time.
The ritual had worked.
Okay.
But the dragons were listening now. Chapter 22, Boys Village. The car hummed as they wound down the narrow back roads, the afternoon light slipping behind trees in long, golden streaks. Inside, the air was easy, almost normal. Decima had her playlist on Spotify playing through Daniel's car speakers, the opening chords of I've Had the Time of My Life, from Dirty Dancing filling the space like a soft, nostalgic echo. Daniel glanced over, smirking slightly as the song drifted in. This what you listen to when you're alone?
My favorite song, that is.
Decima smirked back, folding her arms over her chest, but there was a tightness in her stomach. You ever been to that place in the woods? Daniel asked suddenly, eyes on the road. Boys Village. The name snagged in her chest like a thread pulling tight. Boys Village, she echoed, her voice light, but her heart thudding. Daniel grinned, flipping the paintball guns over in his hands, checking the cartridges. Yeah, people go there for paintball, exploring, creepy ghost stories. Figured we could check it out. Blow off some steam. He didn't wait for her answer. The road curved, trees thickening, the light fading. The name Boys Village looped in Decima's mind like a memory half-remembered, an itch she couldn't scratch. By the time they pulled up, the sky had bruised into deeper shades of blue, dusk bleeding into the trees. The place looked half-swallowed by the earth, ivy choking broken walls, brambles crawling over shattered stones. The church, dark and skeletal, stood at the heart of it all, its stone walls stained and streaked, its windows broken, jagged shards of glass clinging to the edges. Graffiti covered the crumbling bricks, layers of tags and words fading into each other, a chaotic mess of color and decay. Daniel cut the engine, the radio fading into a low hum. He handed her a paintball mask, raising an eyebrow. You ready? Decima took it, but her fingers felt numb. The air felt heavier here. She could taste it in the back of her throat, damp and metallic, like the scent of wet stone and rust. They stepped through the gate, Daniel laughing lightly. Come on, Ren. Don't tell me you're scared. But the ground beneath Decima's feet seemed to shift. Not really, but almost. The wind hissed low through the tall grass, brushing over her skin like fingers. The church pulsed faintly in the fading light, its walls sagging, roof partially caved in, but the stones seemed to breathe, exhaling the cold damp of ages. I've been here before, she whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Daniel's laugh faltered. You sure?
When I've been walking.
But she was already moving, slow and careful, her boots crunching on gravel and scattered glass. The inside of the church was worse than outside, rows of pews splintered and broken. The altar nothing but a slab covered in soot and moss. The walls bore the scars of time, graffiti, cracked stone, patches of blackened fire marks like old wounds. The air was cold, wrong. The scent of burnt herbs and damp would clung to the walls. Daniel raised his paintball gun, trying to lighten the mood. All right, you hide. I'll count to 10. But before Decima could speak, the air shifted a low, guttural hum, rising from the stones, vibrating through the soles of her boots. The door slammed shut behind them with a final, echoing clang. Daniel spun. What they? The floor glowed a dull, sickly green, lines etching themselves into a circle beneath their feet, symbols old and strange, almost familiar, but slipping away like sand through fingers. Decima's breath caught in her throat. The air pressed in thick and heavy, squeezing her chest. Decima, Daniel's voice cut through the dark, sharp now. She couldn't answer. The symbols were burning, not really, but in her memory, across her skin, searing into her arms, her chest, her throat. A whisper drifted through the space, low, layered, in no language she knew, but somehow understood. She must not remember. She must not remember. She must not remember. Her breath hitched, her body locking tight. I've been here before, she whispered again. Daniel's hand gripped hers, warm, solid, pulling her back, but she barely felt it. Flashes, shards of memory, slammed into her. Herself, younger, standing in the church, barely 17. Cloaked figures, faces hidden, chanting in a low, urgent rhythm. A circle of salt, candles flickering, her arms bound tight. Words like fire on her skin let her power sleep. A crushing weight in her chest, like something breaking, like something taken. Her knees buckled. Daniel caught her, his arms strong, voice muffled but urgent. Decima, what is it? What's happening? The whisper swelled, then cut off, vanishing like smoke sucked into stone. The glow faded. The door creaked open slowly, just as if nothing had happened. Decima's hands were shaking. She pressed her palm to the floor, tracing the lines that had burned there, but it was just cold stone now, bare and blank. Daniel watched her, frowning, breathing hard. Decima looked up, her voice hollow. I think they made me forget. They didn't speak for a long moment, just the sound of their breathing, raw and ragged. Daniel's hand was still gripping hers, thumb brushing over her knuckles like he was trying to keep her here. The door was open, but the air inside the church still felt wrong. Decima swallowed, her throat dry, her voice barely a whisper. Come on, she said. Let's get out of here. Daniel hesitated, his voice careful, low. What just happened, Decima? She shook her head, moving past him. The night air hit her like a slab, cool, sharp, heavy with the smell of damp earth and distant rain. Daniel followed close, worry stitched across his face. Decima, talk to me, please. She stopped at the edge of the churchyard, turning back once. The church sat there like a hollowed-out body, empty, but the weight of it clung to her chest. I've been here before, she whispered. Daniel frowned, voice tight. When? I don't know. The truth slipped from her like water, there and gone. I remember something. They were doing something to me, like they wanted me to forget. Her voice cracked. She wrapped her arms around herself, squeezing tight, as if the night might split her open. Daniel stepped closer. His voice was a low promise. You're not alone, Decima. His words didn't fix it. They couldn't, but she leaned into him anyway, letting the weight of the night settle between them. The night was quiet, too quiet. She didn't see the faint sigil in the stone, glowing faintly for a heartbeat before it vanished into the cracks. They drove back in silence, the hum of the engine and the faint static of the radio filling the space. Daniel gripped the wheel tighter than usual, his jaw clenched, glancing at her every few minutes like he was waiting for her to fall apart. Decima stared out the window, the dark blurring past, the sigil still burning behind her eyelids, like a ghost she couldn't shake. Her hands fidgeted in her lap, thumbs brushing over the faint mark on her wrist. Just a freckle. Maybe. But now, she wasn't so sure. When they pulled up outside her house, the sky was black, the air still and cold. Daniel killed the engine. The car clicked and sighed into silence. Decima, he started, his voice low, almost broken. She shook her head quickly. I can't talk about it right now. He didn't push, just nodded slowly, like he understood even if he didn't. She stepped out, the gravel crunching under her boots, the air sharp and damp with the scent of rain. Her garden seemed. She paused on the porch, keys trembling in her hand. Daniel's voice was soft, almost a whisper. Are you going to be okay? Decima didn't turn. Yeah, but her voice was too quiet, too unsure. Daniel waited a beat, then sighed. If you need me, just call. The door clicked open.
Need to dry those.
She stepped inside, the house cold and quiet. The walls seemed closer, the shadows thicker, the air pressing in. She stood in the kitchen, hands flat on the counter, her breath shallow. Her mind raced. The church. The circle of light. The whispers she must not remember. Her name burning across her skin. Her hands clenched into fists. Whatever they'd tried to take from her. It was waking up now. And no one was going to stop it. Chapter 23. The Unraveling. The ground trembled beneath Decima's feet, stronger than before. She felt it deep in her bones, a shudder that vibrated through the earth like an unspoken warning. The air crackled with energy, sharp and heavy, as if the magic itself was waking up, angry, restless, and impossible to ignore. Decima's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers instinctively gripped Daniel's sleeve, her knuckles white. Daniel beside her, his eyes scanning the trees, shoulders tight, ready for something they didn't yet understand. What's happening? Decima's voice barely rose above a whisper, the fear in her chest raw and heavy. Daniel shook his head slowly, his face grim. This isn't what was supposed to happen. The bond, our bond, should have been broken. He said it like he was trying to convince himself, but the words hung in the air, empty and fragile. Decima could feel it too. The bond between them, that invisible thread she'd felt tugging at her soul since the beginning, was still there. Alive. Humming. The air shimmered, distorting like heat over tarmac. The forest seemed to breathe, the trees bending under a pressure she couldn't see. Branches groaned and twisted, roots cracking through the earth. It was too much, too wild, too ancient. And then, from deep within the woods, came a sound.
Just read it myself.
Low, rumbling, like a growl, but older than any creature she had ever heard. Decima's heart raced. She felt it in her chest, in her veins. This wasn't just magic. It was something alive, something that had been waiting. Without thinking, she grabbed Daniel's hand. We need to move, she whispered urgently, her voice tight with fear. Whatever this is, we can't be here when it finds us. Daniel didn't argue. He squeezed her hand tighter, eyes locked on the shifting darkness ahead. Stay close, he said, voice steady despite the tension radiating on him. They started to move, slow at first, picking their way through the tangled roots and creeping branches. But it was as if the forest itself was closing in on them, the trees pressing closer, their limbs reaching like fingers trying to hold them back. Decima's head spun. The air was thick, suffocating. The pulse of the magic grew louder, matching the frantic rhythm of her heartbeat. Her mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. Had the ritual failed? Was the bond still holding? Or had they unleashed something far worse? A shiver ran down her spine as the growl in the distance deepened. The ground beneath them trembled once more, long, slow, and heavy. A warning. Daniel, she breathed, fear lacing her voice. Before he could answer, the earth cracked open ahead of them, splitting like the skin of an overripe fruit. Smoke, dark and choking, poured from the fissure, swirling around them. Decima's eyes widened, her pulse thundering in her ears. The smoke seemed to pulse with light, like molten gold beneath its surface.
Cooking.
And then, rising from the depths, came a shape. Massive,
chicken
winged,
burgers and
its scales shimmering like liquid fire, eyes glowing with an unearthly light.
They're almost
dragon.
done soon.
Not the vision from her dreams.
Okay.
Not the flicker she'd glimpsed before. A real, living dragon. And it was staring directly at her. Decima froze. Her breath hitched in her throat, caught between awe and terror. She couldn't tear her gaze away from the dragon. Its presence was overwhelming, its power pressing against her skin like heat from a fire. The light from its scales shifted with each breath, a molten dance of gold and bronze that seemed alive. Daniel's voice broke through the pounding in her ears, quiet, strained.
Okay.
Decima, this is it. This is the dragon. The one tied to the curse. His words barely registered. Decima felt the bond, their bond, pulse in her chest, thrumming louder now, sharper, as if the dragon itself was woven into that thread, an ancient force long forgotten, but never truly gone. Her thoughts scrambled. How could this be? They had tried to break the bond, hadn't they? The ritual at the altar, the blood, the magic, they had tried to sever the connection. But the dragon was here, awake, watching. Its eyes locked onto hers, glowing with a light that wasn't just fire. It was memory, weight, and knowing. It tilted its massive head, and she swore it could see right through her, into her soul, into the bond. It's not just the bond between us, it's tied to this place. The dragons, the magic. Decima's breath caught. The dragon's gaze swept over them again, slow and deliberate, like it was waiting, watching. Do not run. The dragon's voice echoed inside her mind, not spoken, but a deep, resonant presence that filled her skull like thunder. You staggered, the words slamming into her chest. Her knees buckled, and she would have fallen if Daniel hadn't caught her. His hands gripped her shoulders, steadying her, grounding her. Did you hear that? She gasped, her voice barely audible. Daniel's face was pale, eyes wide with something between awe and dread. Yeah, he whispered. I heard it. The dragon's wings unfurled, sending a wave of heat and wind through the clearing. The smoke shifted around them, forming tendrils that curled through the air, almost like they were alive. The bond is not a chain. It is a tether of breath and flame. It is what wakes you at night. It is what binds you when the world tries to tear you apart. It is soul-bound. Decima shivered at the word. It echoed in her mind like a thread pulled tight. Daniel and Decima's bond, this ancient, soul-bound connection, has been stirring something deeper. Since they were drawn together, the hidden magic has begun to awaken, loosening the spell that has long kept the dragons trapped. Decima's dragon, Serenthi, was the first to step. She's been able to leave the cave, but only briefly. The ancient spell pushes her back, like a leash woven into the earth itself. Every time she tries to break free fully, the magic drags her back. The connection between Decima and Daniel is the key. It's not just about them. It's about the dragons, the land, and the ancient curse their ancestors wove into the world. By coming together, they've triggered something, but they don't yet understand how to break the spell fully or the price it might demand. She didn't fully understand, but she knew it mattered. That word soulbound felt like a key they hadn't yet turned.
So cloudy, my phone feels
Daniel's
like.
grip tightened on her shoulders. His voice was low, urgent. Decima, this isn't just about us anymore. The bond, we thought it was between you and me, but it's not. Decima's breath caught. Her heart thudded painfully. What do you mean? Daniel's gaze stayed locked on the dragon, his jaw clenched. It's bigger than us. It's tied to the land, the magic, the dragons. It's soulbound. The word hung in the air like a spark, soulbound. It made sense, somehow, in a way that felt both ancient and terrifying. The dragon's voice returned, low and fierce. The bond you sought to break was never just yours. It is a thread woven into the fabric of this world, older than memory, deeper than blood. It cannot be cut without consequence. The dragon's eyes gleamed brighter, and a low growl vibrated through the earth. Now, it rumbled, you must choose. Sever the bond and risk unraveling everything, or embrace it and protect what remains.
Did that just stop?
Decima's chest tightened as the dragon's words settled in the air. She felt the pulse of the bond inside her deeper now, more ancient than she had ever realized. It was no longer just between her and Daniel. It was bigger. It was tied to the earth beneath her feet, to the dragons hidden beneath stone and spell, to the very magic that hummed in her blood. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it cracked through the heavy stillness. How do we break something like that without breaking everything? The dragon's head tilted slightly, smoke curling from its nostrils. Its eyes gleamed gold, reflecting something she couldn't quite name. You cannot. Not fully. The bond is not a curse, it is a promise. A trust. It is soulbound. The word echoed again, sharper this time. Soulbound. It wasn't just a connection. It was a responsibility.
I made
Daniel's hand found hers, warm and steady. His
on
voice
the
was
ninth
low, but
bit
urgent.
earlier,
We have
and
to think
now
this through.
I'm actually
The dreams,
part-
the visions, the woman you saw, the pendant, the
I think
dragon
part
in the
10,
cave, all of it
the
points to
15
something bigger.
parts.
The bond was forged by your ancestor, but it's been
That's
guarded,
chapter 19 on
hidden,
the
protected.
book.
There's a reason for that. Decima
It's
swallowed
Italian
hard.
everywhere.
The memory of the vision flooded her. The woman in silver and fire, standing before the altar, the dragon at her side. Waimo Gon Galen, Nid Gon Gadwin. Bound by heart, not by chain. It had been a spell of protection, of loyalty, not control. Her breath shook. I thought we were breaking a curse, but we were trying to break a promise. The dragon's wings stirred, a slow, deliberate movement that sent a gust through the clearing. You see the truth now. The bond was not a prison. It was a shield. The dragon's gaze sharpened, fierce and ancient. But the shield is fragile. Break it without understanding, and you risk unbinding the very forces that hold this world together. Decima's hands trembled. The gravity of it all hit her in waves, heavy and cold. What do we do now? The dragon's voice dropped, a low, rumbling whisper. You must decide, will you guard the flame, or let it burn uncontrolled? Daniel's voice broke through, firm, steady. We're not ready to choose yet. We need to understand more. The grimoire, the stories, the truth about the soulbound. Decima nodded, her pulse racing. She wasn't ready to let go, not yet. Not until she knew everything. And deep down, she felt it stir, inside her chest, inside her veins. The bond wasn't gone. It was waiting. Waiting for her choice. The wind shifted, sharp and cold, carrying the scent of ash and something older, deeper. The dragon's eyes narrowed, its gaze focused on Decima like it could see through her skin, through her soul. You ask about the bond, it rumbled. But you do not yet understand the price of it. Decima swallowed hard, her voice barely more than a whisper. Then tell us. Please tell us. For a long moment, the dragon was silent. The air seemed to hold still, as if the whole forest was waiting. Then, finally, it spoke. The soulbound are more than a connection between two beings. They're a promise woven into the threads of the world itself. The bond ties magic, life, and the dragon's power together. When your ancestor forged the bond, when she tried to control what could not be controlled, she wove a chain into the fabric of the earth. That chain was meant to protect, but it also trapped. Daniel's brows furrowed, his voice tight. Trapped who? The dragons. The dragon's eyes flashed, the light flaring like a star caught in its gaze. Not all dragons. Only those who were meant to be free. Only those who were born to shift, to walk among humans and sky-like. Your bond, Decima, it is not just about you and him. Daniel's breath caught. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Then why us? Why no? The dragon tilted its massive head, smoke curling from its nostrils. Because you carry the bloodline. Because you're the key. The words hit Decima like a hammer. The key. The last. The only one who could break the spell or strengthen it. Daniel's voice broke into her thoughts, raw and uncertain. Decima, the dreams, the visions. I've been seeing them for weeks. Before I even knew you. The cliffs, the fire, the bond, it's like something inside me has been waking up. Decima's heart clenched. I've been feeling it too, the pull. Like something is trying to tell me what I already know, but I can't. I can't quite hear it. The dragon's voice softened, a low hum vibrating in the earth. It is your choice. But know this, the bond is not just between the two of you. It echoes across the land, through the magic, through the dragons themselves. If you break it, you may free what was caged, but you may also break what holds this world together. Decima's hands trembled. The weight of it all settled heavy on her chest, on her breath, on her very being. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. His voice was quiet, but steady. We'll figure this out. Together. She nodded, barely able to speak. The magic hummed louder now, like it was listening. Like it was waiting. For her answer. The dragon's voice thrummed through the air, ancient and deep, like the earth itself was speaking. Decima felt it sink into her bones, an echo of something far older than she could understand. Daniel's hand tightened around hers, steady, grounding, and she turned to him, her breath ragged. His eyes met hers, dark and glinting in the strange light of the clearing. He looked like he was holding something back. I've been dreaming about this, Daniel said quietly, his voice low but certain. The dragon, this place. I thought it was just in my head, but now it's real. It's all real. Decima swallowed, her pulse quickening. She could feel it too, the weight of the magic pressing down, the bond they had been trying to break threading through the earth beneath their feet. It was ancient, tangled, alive. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. It's not just us, is it? This bond, it's something bigger. We've been feeling it since the start, before we even spoke. Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. It's like it's been there all along. Every dream, every pull, it's part of something older. It's not just the bond between us, it's tied to this place. The dragons, the magic. Decima's breath caught. The dragon's gaze swept over them again, slow and deliberate, like it was waiting, watching. Decima's breath trembled, her heart racing in her chest. The dragon's words circled in her mind, heavy, ancient, and undeniable. She glanced at Daniel, who was watching the dragon with a quiet intensity, like he was trying to piece it all together. His voice was barely audible when he spoke, rough with disbelief. Decima, this isn't just about us. The dreams, they weren't warnings. They were memories. Or maybe something deeper. They've been trying to tell us all along. Decima felt her throat tighten. The bond, the pull, the fire in her veins every time she stepped into the forest. It wasn't just theirs to break, it was part of something much older, something woven into the land itself. The dragon's gaze narrowed, and its voice came again, lower now, almost like a whisper carried on the wind. The bond is not a chain. It is a tether of breath and flame. It is what wakes you at night. It is what binds you when the world tries to tear you apart. It is soul-bound. Decima shivered at the word. It echoed in her mind like a thread pulled tight. She didn't fully understand, but she knew it mattered. That word, soul-bound, felt like a key they hadn't yet turned. Daniel exhaled slowly, like the weight of it all was pressing down on him. If the dragons are trapped, if we're trapped, then breaking the bond could set it all free. Or it could break everything.
How long now?
Decima swallowed, her voice unsteady but clear.
30.
What do we do, Daniel?
30.
What do we do now? Daniel met her gaze, the fear in his eyes mirrored in her own. His fingers brushed over hers, grounding them both in the moment. We face it together. The dragon shifted its wings, the air crackling as it moved. Its final words came like a soft pulse in the earth, deep and unrelenting. Remember, soulbound is not a curse. It is a choice, a legacy. The land remembers. The dragons remember. The choice is yours. The silence that followed was absolute. The ground beneath them hummed faintly, as if waiting. And somewhere beyond the trees, something else stirred, watching, waiting for them to decide. Chapter 24, The Path of Fire. The forest was quiet once the dragon disappeared, leaving only silence behind. Decima stood still, her hand clasped tightly in Daniel's, her mind reeling. Do you think we can really do this? Daniel asked. I don't know, Decima admitted. But we don't have a choice. Daniel managed a small smile. Together, she confirmed, squeezing his hand. They took a step forward, but the ground shifted beneath their feet. The magic in the air was changing again, deeper and darker than before. Without warning, the earth split open and from it rose a figure tall, regal, draped in shadows. It was neither entirely human nor entirely otherworldly, and its presence stole the breath from Decima's lungs. You have embraced the bond, the figure said, voice a whisper that seemed to carry on the wind. But the path you walk is fraught with peril. Who are you? Decima demanded. I am one who has walked this path before, it said. The dragon's power is vast and dangerous. You must understand it before it consumes you. Daniel's grip on her hand tightened. What do you want from us? Knowledge, the figure replied. The dragons are not what they seem. And the magic you hold is not solely your own. The figure extended a hand, and Decima felt a rush of magic surge through her. The figure's voice rang clear. You will learn. But first, you must survive. Then the figure vanished, leaving only the charged air behind. What now? Daniel whispered. Decima's heart was pounding, but she answered firmly. Now we learn. The real journey was only beginning. Decimal stood in silence for a moment longer, letting the lingering energy settle in her bones. The air around them still shimmered faintly, as if the figure's presence had not entirely gone. I felt something, she murmured. When they touched me, a memory that wasn't mine. Daniel turned to her. What kind of memory? She shook her head. A city of stone towers. Dragons flying above it. People bowing beneath a silver sky. It felt real. Ancient. Daniel's expression darkened. The past? Or the future, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, but it was strong. They began to walk again, deeper into the woods, the light above dimming as the trees grew thicker. The world around them seemed older now, like each step carried them further from what they knew and closer to something buried beneath time. Do you think that figure was a ghost? Daniel asked. No, Decima said. It was more than that. A guardian, maybe. Or a warning. As they moved forward, a soft glow appeared ahead, a ring of stones half buried in moss. It pulsed faintly with blue light, and carved into each one were symbols they had seen before in dreams, in visions, in flame. This is where the next part begins, Decima said. She stepped into the circle, and the ground trembled once more. Above them, something stirred, a shadow in the sky. The dragons were not done with them yet. A wind stirred through the trees, as if responding to her words, brushing past them like a sigh from the land itself. Every step Decima took felt heavier now, not just with the weight of her body, but with the burden of responsibility. The path she had chosen wasn't simply magical. It was ancestral, elemental. That vision, she said softly as they pressed on through the gloom, I saw a crown. But not one you wear. It was forged from flame and scaled hide. It burned and yet didn't burn me. It was calling me. Daniel stopped in his tracks. A crown. Decima nodded. I think it's part of the bond. A symbol of the dragon's legacy. Not just their power, but their rule. You think it's meant for you? He asked, voice hushed. I don't know, she said, but the tremble in her voice gave her away. I'm afraid it is. Daniel stepped closer, brushing a hand against her arm. Whatever this magic wants from you, you won't face it alone. I'll fight it with you. The ground beneath them glowed faintly. The runes carved into the roots and rocks were more visible now, no longer hidden, but rising like scars beneath the forest skin. Welsh phrases pulsed in the glow, ancient magic written in breath and blood.
Did you
Panic
miss
wave.
me? Hey, what do you
RWN.
mean? Yeah, I
Asterisk,
missed
fire
you.
and blood. Call and bind. Asterisk. They're everywhere, Daniel said, his eyes wide as he touched a glowing vine. It's like the land is waking with us. Decima pressed her hand against one of the stones. A flash of memory surged through her, another life, another voice. A woman screamed. A spell cast in desperation. Dragons roaring above a burning fortress.
How are
She
you
gasped
anyway?
and staggered back. They tried to control it. Long ago, the first witches. They tried to bind the dragons and failed. Daniel studied her. What happened? They broke
Oh,
the
I
sky.
didn't
she
realise
whispered.
that.
They
I
crushed the
stopped
world.
going live
And the
for a
bond
while
was
because
bond.
my
It
mum
was
was
their
in
way of
hospital
mending what
for
shattered. For
like
a long
an
moment,
over
neither
a
of them
month.
spoke.
I don't know how long
The
it
trees
was,
leaned in close.
but it felt like
The
it was
light
forever.
shifted.
So I was going
Magic
there every
throbbed
day and I
like a
stopped
second
going live
heartbeat.
for a while.
Finally, Daniel said, then it's not
But
a
she's
curse
a
at
lot
all.
better now.
It's a
Glad
repair.
you're better.
And we're the ones meant to hold it together, Decima finished. A gust of wind swept
okay.
through the circle of stones. And above them, in the clouds, a shape moved, vast and silent. The shadow of wings circling once before vanishing into the mist. The dragons were watching, waiting, and the path of fire had only just begun. Chapter 25, The Unseen Threat. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a pale light over the forest as Decima and Daniel made their way back to the small cottage she had called home. The air was thick with the scent of pine and earth,
I
and the
didn't realize
forest,
you
which
were.
had always felt alive, now seemed to be watching them, its silence unnerving. Every rustle of leaves, every
I will
snap
have
of
to
twigs
leave
beneath
the
their
live
feet
now.
felt like an echo of something hidden just out of reach. As they walked,
I need to go to my mum's now and cook her food. Well, I cooked her food already, but warm it up when I get there. Oh, you put, oh no. Well, I hope you get better. Sorry, you've just came in, but I have to go. Food's ready and I need to go out now. Bye. Take care, yeah?